Holiness family. Again, we coming toward the end of this week and preparing ourselves for trying to get to the end of what we're dealing with, where and that Eitai can pick up because I can feel his energy that he's ready to roll. You
Absolutely.
know, he wants to really get into this heart and reason. And so, what we're going to do today, we're going to try to attach the heart, you know, to this blood, and the life, in a much more um, becoming and simplistic way that we really, really understand much of the religiosity that we all have been a part of, trying to please this external force by keeping certain commandments. So hopefully we will be able to do that today. That's the aim. But before I do that, I want to go back to something Mr. Ron Sharona, had brought up about life in this flesh. Once we understand or accept the reality or accept the truth concerning how we came into this uh, devolution and descent of our original divinity into this physical plane. And I want to make us understand about that activated what we call time.
Hmm.
Before that, there was no such thing as time. Time was, everything was eternal.
Right.
So as we devolve and descend into time, then a word was created called prophecy, you know. And so now all of these things had to be because we are what? Devolving. We're not ascending. So there had to be a time cycle set if there was going to be an end. So if you got a beginning, you got to have an end. So, but now we're talking about immortality, there's no beginning and no end. And as we have laid out already about consciousness, we see that life exists before it moved to bring into the physicality. So life has nothing to do with physicality in the sense of life eternal and life based upon the true organic concept of life. Now, when you fall into the descent, you're now moving away from what you call true life into quote unquote the fallacy of life, you know. And as we look at life in the flesh, we always are concerned about a time, you know, ending. And sometimes we use terms like we out of here. And so it kind of makes us think that, okay, well, because I think Sharona kind of asked the question about uh, do we have to leave the flesh? And this is not to say that we in love with the flesh. That ain't what I'm saying. I'm just simply saying that our experience in the religiosity, certainly and in the descent, it made us have, I'm going to use the word, a greater contact and a greater security with the flesh
Okay.
because we really didn't understand life. So now as we begin to understand life now, as we have hit rock bottom, now we're saying we're on our way back as how we came in, we would have to go back the same way. Okay, that's relative. So if we came in into flesh, but we wasn't flesh before we came in, but we are flesh now.
Huh.
So the ascent don't mean that I got to leave the flesh to ascend. Okay? So as we continue this journey, because this is truly a journey, now we see how this prophetic concept had to be established in the physical realm. And if we didn't understand it, then we could never bring an end to it because it says in book of Daniel, 70 weeks are determined upon that people, to finish the transgression, bring an end to sin, and anoint the most holy. Well, that word right there, most holy. And we think of holy from a religious term. Well, I've explained how they arrived at the word holy. We won't do that now.
Uh-huh.
But nevertheless, we are really talking about, divinity. We're talking about wholeness. We're talking about singularity. We're talking about oneness. Now, this is where we got to go, family. Now, this is not absence of the flesh. So, but how do we bring an end to the time? We find there was some biblical, I'm going to use the word they call it, days set aside as opposed to call them holy days that was set aside that had us, dealing with a specific time. And the first one was always Passover, and then we knew at Passover you were supposed to what? Bring a lamb that was without blemish. So that's the key right there. That means perfection right there. That means wholeness right there.
Right.
But we brought the physical lamb in our religious perspective, and we slew the lamb. And we were supposed to eat the lamb with our clothes on, and da. And then we come on. So I want to bring it up to Yom Kippur because this is going to be very key for us.
Absolutely.
To the point where Yom Kippur was supposed to be the day where you could be an enemy becomes a friend. You can be forgiven from a sinner to a saint. From death to life, and from immortality. All these things were made possible at Yom Kippur. But we're going to talk about that in the sense of how the blood as the life of the flesh today. Now, this is our portion today, the blood as the life of the flesh, and how this ties into ending a prophetic time cycle, okay? And it gives it to us on the Day of Atonement, but we missed it. We missed it because we was in the religious frame of God and worship, and it had nothing to do with self. It had something to do with pleasing this external God. And that external God would forgive you on that day, and you would become all right with him again. So we're going to pick up here, saying we're starting in the book of Leviticus, the 17th chapter, verses 5 through 16. But I want the family to read all of this so that you can really get the essence of it. But we're going to deal with verse 7, okay, verse 11, verse 14, and verse 15. That's verse 7, verse 11, verse 14, and verse 15. Now, these verses here will kind of give us the idea of what is being said here. And
Nasik, say the verses again. 7,
11, 14, and 15. Okay. 7, 11, and 15. 11, 14, and 15.
Gotcha.
Now, this is going to be very, very, very interesting, family. Very, very interesting. And Eitai, if you could read for me, starting with the 7th verse. Well, no, start with the 9th verse. I mean, not 9th verse, the 6th verse, and then read them as I gave it to you. 6, 7, 11, 14, and 15. Okay?
Got it. Reading from Leviticus, the 17th chapter, verses 6, 7, 11, 14, and 15. And the priest shall sprinkle the blood upon the altar of the Lord at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and burn the fat for a sweet savor unto the Lord.
Okay, so now we talked about sprinkling blood. Now we know All this was talking about, putting the blood up on the doorpost. We know we went there with the Passover. That's what I'm talking about, a prophetic time cycle in the fall and how we have to look at it today. Continue, Eitai.
And they shall no more offer sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring. This shall be a statute forever among them throughout their generations.
So now we actually use the word devils here, and we're not going to, get into that. The devil became, just for your information, the devil became the sacrificial goat, the scapegoat that was,
Right.
that was the devil, and drove him up into the wilderness. Just for your information, but that's not what we want to focus on. But I want us to get the whole idea here about worshiping something outside of yourself and how it causes all the problems that we've gone through. That's the point we want to drive. Continue.
Verse 11, for
Mhm.
the life of the flesh is in the blood,
For the life of the flesh is in the blood,
and I have given it to you upon the altar to make atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that maketh atonement for the soul.
now I want that to just marinate for a moment. I want you to seriously think about it. And then he said, I have given it. Well,
That
we got to understand who the I is. Because if you're thinking outside of yourself again,
that's right.
you and the creator, you done missed it. You got to understand everything has to do with you and I. Okay? Continue, Eitai.
Verses 14 and 15, finishing it out.
Mhm.
For it is the life of all flesh, the blood of it is for the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, ye shall eat the blood of no manner of flesh, for the life of all flesh is the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth it shall be cut off.
Now, here we find very, very significant point. But now, of course, in the descent, we ate blood. I mean, and but it was all right to eat blood. But we didn't understand that we were given certain instructions in the descent about certain animals that we was going to eat, that they had a certain kind of characteristic that was different from others animals. So these were specific instructions given in the fall now, in our fall, but still being told about the significance of this blood. So now we go back to the blood and a particular quote unquote cycle of time, a particular holy day that we all had to keep. And Yom Kippur was that day of days where you could return to, and most people would say oneness, wholeness, unity, and oneness. That's what the day represented. So if we really understood that, Yom Kippur being a particular day, it was designating a particular time for you to understand something beyond the physical plane and the physical condition that was existing and how that physical condition was affecting you as a whole. Okay, that we didn't get. Okay, we just had knowledge of that was the holiest of all days, and it was a solemn day, and you supposed to afflict the soul, and and all of that. You may went before the priest and the high priest or whomever the leadership and asked for forgiveness, but he may not have forgiven you, but he may have forgiven you. But once he forgave you, supposedly everything was all right. Now we know today that is not true. Eitai, could you cut it for a moment, please?
Yes.
Okay, so we were trying to give some insight about the significance of the blood being offered as an atonement on the particular day of Yom Kippur and what was supposed to occur during that particular time. So let's pick up verse 15, and now we come into the great revelation here. Bakasha.
And every soul that eateth that which died of itself, or that which was torn with beasts, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger, he shall both wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. Then shall he be clean.
Now, family, we find the element of water here being significant, right?
Right.
And we find the next element of referred to as evening, bathing in water and still being unclean until the evening. Now, let us consider here. Now, what we have to understand here is very, very critical. Very, very critical. Very, very critical. You see, this put us into a specific time cycle, okay? A specific time cycle. Because the time cycle now came into play when we devolved and what fell into this dualistic realm of the false mind matrix. So they had cycles of time and laws governing that behavior within that time. Now, what I want us to do is take a close look at the word EVEN. Now, when you look at that word EVEN, if you notice there, it's got a colon right next to it. Right, Eitai?
Yes.
Now, I've read this numerous times, and I know many of you have read it numerous times. But, it didn't see the colon. And it didn't really mean nothing. It didn't mean anything. But it's very, very profound. That's what the ancestors did here with this term here. The word EVEN. Now, they revealed to me before I was able to verify within the physical plane. In other words, it was given to me what's being said here, the word EVEN, and naturally, and I said, wow, and then what I did, I took the cursory of the computer and put on the word, and then it verified exactly what had been given to me by, you understand, the ancestors. Now, the word here, you would say evening, like when the sun go down, right? That would be a natural where you say, well, the EVENING, evening, when the sun go down. Did not we use the sun as a measuring rod in the Hebrew culture that begins the day and ends the day, right?
Right.
But you got to remember now, we're in the dualistic realm. We're in the dualistic realm. So this is very instructive here. Very, very instructive. Because now, in this realm here, where time determines a beginning and it determines an end. But if we come from a world where there was no, beginning and the end, what would mean being unclean? It wouldn't have no connection with being unclean, and I would have to bathe and wash, until the evening, but the sun go down. Well, first of all, the word is not evening. the word there is an event. If you put your cursor on it, a T gonna drop up. It's an event. So now that's a designated time that, you know, comes into play. Evening is a designated time, you say, but now when you put the word, put a T on, you got an event. That's not a cycle of time. Okay? That event is what has to happen, not the evening. It's an event that's got to take place in order for us to journey back. It's an event. Now, this is very important, family. Very, very important. Because if we understand that it's an event, then the event sets everything in motion in terms of you returning to what it was that you had what? Fell from. The event determines it. Now, let's see how all of this is connected to, you know, quote unquote, the holy day, you know, of Yom Kippur. Okay. Now, Eitai, could you put it on hold for just 1 second?
I got you.
Just one.
All right, go.
Eitai?
Okay. Good.
So now, when we consider, you know, the event, now we're going to take it to the Yom Kippur as it relates to the, you know, the 11th and the 15th verse that we just read. Okay? And say, I'm going to read for you. Say, for us as a family to truly understand the allegorical narrative of the scriptural references above, we would have to comprehend verse 11 and verse 15, for these two will greatly assist. All right? In verse 11, it reveals that the life, and this word life, 53:15, is called nephesh. Okay? Nephesh, which is the flesh, is the nephesh, or the life of the flesh is in the blood. The life, nephesh, you know, is the blood that is in the flesh. And it says, I have given it up on the altar to make an atonement. The word atonement, Hebrew, is 37:22, and it's kafar. Okay? And this atonement is for the souls, not one, but the soul, humanity. So nephesh is a breathing, you know, individual, be it an animal or a person, human being. Breathe, existent as life. Now, atonement, dealing with the prime root, it means to cover. Listen carefully now. Kafar, a primitive root to cover. Figuratively, to expiate or condone, placate, conceal, disannul, forgive, to be merciful, to pacify, to pardon, to put off. Okay? The blood is used as an atonement for the flesh on the altar. Altar, 41:46. And it's pronounced Migbeach from 2076, which is an altar. Okay? .76 is the prime root. To slaughter an animal. So now, family, listen carefully now here. The life is in the blood, and it is given to make an atonement for the souls. So when the flesh is slaughtered, slash killed, or removed, was because it had been used to cover the life within the flesh that causes the flesh to live. Let me read that again. Listen now. The life is in the blood, and it is given to make an atonement for the souls. So when the flesh is slaughtered, or killed, or removed, it was because it had been used, the flesh is being used to cover the life within the flesh that causes the flesh to exist. Do you hear me, family?
I hear you.
So we can understand now, because we got to understand how we got to bring it in. We can go back to the evening. The evening have nothing to do with you being clean. And the washing, everything ain't got nothing. All that was symbolic because it was the blood. But we had to have a designated time to keep us within this what? False simulated mind matrix. Other than that, it wasn't a prophetic time, and we wasn't going to understand the prophetic time cycle in the dualistic what? Mindset. There's no way to accept, understand it. You had to get to rock bottom, and that the ancestors would start to what? Reveal these things unto us. Are you hearing me, family? Now let's go on. So the atonement is used to cover the flesh. Other than that, we would have to be killed. Physically, the flesh would have to be killed. So the atonement, which is what? He said, I have given it for you, the atonement, the blood, so atonement is used as the what? Symbol of blood used to cover the flesh. Because the blood is where the life is, and it's internal. So the flesh covers the what? Internal, doesn't it, family?
Yes, got it.
Just as the flesh had been used to cover the life. See, our flesh covers the life. The flesh is not the life. The blood within, the energy within the blood is where the life is. The consciousness is in the blood. Consciousness is in the blood, family. And this is why it's so important for us to hear, things, and we consume, whether it be by mouth or ear, so it will go to the heart, and what will go to the heart will what? Go from the heart. But you see, what's been happening is that we have not understood how the concept of the mind duality, it blocks access to, quote unquote, the significant organs called the heart. So as we go, I'm gonna go back over this again because I know this is the first time you heard it, and it's a little challenging. We're gonna go back. The life is in the blood, or the life of the flesh is the blood. It is given to make an atonement for the souls. So when the flesh is slaughtered, the animal that you were supposed to kill and bring forth, you understand, to be, offered up, once it's killed or removed, life is removed from it, it was because it had to be used to cover the life within the flesh, which is the blood, the consciousness. It's inside. The flesh is not the consciousness. It's underneath all of that. It said the flesh is slaughtered, killed, or removed was because it had been used to cover the life which is the energy consciousness within the blood, with the flesh that causes the flesh to live or exist. Without the blood energy consciousness, the flesh doesn't do anything. Can't do nothing.
Nasik, this is a result of animation.
This absolutely, Ty. Absolutely. So the atonement is used to cover the flesh. Atoning blood is used to cover the flesh, so that the flesh can continue on. Other than you would have to what? Kill the physical flesh and be offered, because the blood is where the life is. Just as the flesh had been used to cover the life, okay, which is the blood within the flesh. Now, let me stop here and ask, is there any questions? Is everything understood?
Yeah.
Okay. Within the narrative of verse 15, it speaks of bathing oneself in water and being unclean until the evening. That's the word again, E-V-E-N. Then shall you be clean. The reference reveals that there is a designated time to end the separation that had occurred. The disconnection is from the whole of one's divinity. As we look at the elements required for making one available to become clean, is directly related to water and the evening. Here is the profundity of the ancestors with the language in using the term E-V-E-N. Certainly, it is not the evening that determines that one is clean or able to return to their former divinity of wholeness. More accurately, it is not an even, but an event that is symbolic, revealing something far greater in responsibility to oneself. This event was revealing to the fallen humanity that there is a former state of existence / life as organic consciousness of wholeness and divinity that everyone had to ascend back unto. So this is what Yom Kippur and the Day of Atonement with blood and water, giving us symbolic insight into something much greater that was at stake in terms of life in the flesh. Do you know the fact of the matter is the body has the ability to cleanse everything itself when it's in the what? Its organic cycle. It's like, it's like you go to the hospital and you get an operation, and they said the operation was a success, but it depends upon the life within the flesh as to whether it what heals itself. And the operation don't heal you, you heal yourself. So I'm saying once we get to this realm of consciousness, when that we no longer are dual, unbelievable things will happen. Unbelievable things will happen. I was telling Akalias today about, life, and he and I was talking about the life within humanity. It is so profound, that you can eat all kind of stuff, do all kind of stuff, and the body will hang around for 70, 80 years without you doing anything right. And you can have children and whatever, you understand? But then having children, you don't have enough knowledge of how to take care of them. There's an element of consciousness that you done lost. An element of consciousness of how not to what pollutes. So I'm just saying that once you get back into this state of wholeness, you're really going to see who you are, who we are as quote unquote creators. Right now, we can't even imagine because we have fallen so low, you know, that we keep looking external for assistance rather than internal. Okay? Any questions or comments?
Nasik,
Please.
I'm putting this in terms of the descent from divinity into the flesh. All right.
Oh, uh-huh.
This might help. We know that waters were involved in the beginning, right?
Absolutely, Tay.
So it's the waters above, family. The waters above, that was what? The beginning of life, right?
Right,
The spirit moved on the waters, correct?
right.
And these are what we termed earlier the creative waters.
Absolutely right.
So as we began our descent, we must understand that as above, so below. So what are the waters below? And we said, is blood the waters below?
Yes, it is.
Is it part of the creative waters?
Yes, it is.
So it below it refers to the water of life or the creative fluids that are now bodily.
Right.
You must understand this, that are
Can
now everything that was above, we have contained in this vessel called
absolutely.
called the flesh or the body.
That's
And
correct.
the blood again refers to the creative waters. All right. So
That's correct.
washing the flesh can't do anything.
Can't do anything.
And
Nasik.
we must understand this from a biological, physical level, and at the same time from a non-physical, divine level.
That's correct, Eitai. Absolutely correct. Mark here, you had a question?
I had a comment
Go ahead, Bakasha.
that and this ties to what you was sharing yesterday between the mind and consciousness. You know, the mind is organic intelligence, consciousness is artificial. So when they put these flu shots into these children and into these people, that's artificial.
That's artificial.
Instead of letting the virus, if a person contacts the virus naturally, then that's organic, and then the body can identify and do its thing organically. You know.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So this is clear to me, crystal clear.
It's just like Eitai said, once we understand, you know, this creative process, and the only creative process we've been understanding is this physical. We struggling with grasping how consciousness move, you know, and we struggling with grasping that, and rightfully so. You know, these are things that we have not heard before. These are
Right.
things that challenge you to understand the present way of viewing things, which is dualistic. It gives you another way to look at it. You say, but if you keep using that, you're going to keep looking at it two ways, as opposed to the framework that the ancestors have given us.
Mm-hmm.
To accept that everything is whole, organic, unity, oneness, divinity, all those terms. Once you put that way of viewing things, you understand, but it's hard to accept that what's being taught is in harmony with that.
Right.
Because, you know, so-and-so, he was just like me. He got flaws. And you follow what I'm saying? We get the and we miss what's going on, what's being, we're not using the ear nor the heart.
Mm-hmm.
But we academically using the term heart, you know, ear and all of that, but we're not organically, you know, using those organs. And that's just what we gotta acknowledge, family. Okay, can we move?
Let's go.
Okay. The revelation explained here gives clarity to the biblical narrative, wherein one is able to see the direct connection to the term Eve, 6153 Erev. Erev Tov, we say, from 6150, dust, D-U-S-K, as the root meaning covering. Now, I don't think we knew that. I didn't know that. It had never come to me. The term Erev means what? Means covering. Covering to grow dusky by sundown. Now, okay, let's stop for S-U-N, sundown. Now, Eitai, could you go to the book of Malachi, the 2nd chapter? Okay, book of Malachi, the 2nd chapter. I think it's the first 3 verses, or the first 4 verses. We're talking about the root meaning covering, to grow dusky at sundown. Sundown. Now, we're going to look at what we've been taught about, and Yah so loved the world, he gave what his only begotten who?
Son.
Son. Now but you see, S-O-N, different from the way you see S-U-N. That's duality.
Right.
That's duality again. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Put it on hold for me, Bakasha.
Uh-huh. All right, reading from Malachi, the 4th chapter, first 4 verses. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly, shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch. But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of righteousness arise, with healing in his wings. And ye shall go forth and grow up as calves in the stall, and ye shall tread down the wicked, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet in the day that I shall do this, saith the Lord of hosts. Remember ye the law of Moses my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, with statutes and judgments.
So now, family, when we look at here, we find that the term, the sun, S-U-N, and we know the sun, the brightness of the sun. That's a symbolic, you understand? But again, we see the S-O-N and the S-U-N, you know, is what? All a reflection of an element within creation. Okay? So when we understand this here, we got to look at it from an energetic or spiritual point of view, as opposed to a physical point of view. There's nobody coming going to be called the Son of Righteousness.
Right.
You are the what? Son and daughters, or the what? Holistic unity of all creation yourself. You are the divinity. You are here. We've been what? Unconscious of who we are. You know? See, we thought when Abba Ben Ami came or the Messiah come, he was going to be the one that was going to, you know, be the purifying soap and the purging.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This is how we was trapped in a dualistic, you understand, way of viewing this, where it was always somebody else other than the responsibility, as I stated, is upon you to create the event that will allow you to be able to make your journey into the ascension realm through a what? Conscious effort of becoming whole and becoming what? Unified and becoming what? One singularity of divinity. As each and every one of us, we have to do that.
Yes.
So to kind of close this out as we move on, we're going back when it says, well, we read again, we said the revelation explains here, gives us clarity to the biblical narrative when one is able to see the direct connection to the term evening. You know, Eder means dusk as the root meaning covering, to grow dusky at sundown. So now we got to understand that the sun is what? And what he said, me and my father one, right? He sent his only begotten son because he so loved the world that what? He would offer him for the world. This is the offering we're talking about. This is the offering here. With this symbolic term that we just read about the Day of Atonement, we are the offering. We got to understand that, family. We are the son and daughters that are what? Down, done fallen down from the what? Higher state of divinity. Mm-hmm. You were the sundown. You at rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Said, this connects us to another identical word, 6148, Arab, a prime root to braid, B-R-A-I-D, example, intermix as by barter. Now listen to this. Also to give or be security as a kind of exchange. So now we had to understand that in this condition, we had to what? Do these things as an exchange for what? What we had lost of being what? Whole and what? Divinity. We had to have an exchange. So we had to what? Make some kind of effort through bartering, and that's the term we're using, with one another. Then it goes on to say, to engage, to meddle with a mingled self, to mortgage or to occupy, to give pledges, to become or put in security or undertake security. The only begotten son is down at rock bottom and is covered under the influence of the programmed mind, being artificial intelligence and animated by the frequency of dualism. This is why we had to do all of these things, family. All this was symbolic. If we don't understand the energetic element returning to wholeness, that will make us what? Shine as the brightness of the firmament, because that's where we are. Wholeness makes us shine as the brightness of the firmament. You know, duality causes the firmament to be what? The upper and the lower. We got to get out of the lower and become the upper, if you follow what I'm saying. So we're going to hold here, family, and ask the question. Then any questions or comment as we come to our latter part. At this juncture, we must seriously consider blood as being the life of the flesh. We rarely nor even consider or try to search out or examine the understanding of the most important concept. We must understand the vital necessity as a family in making this earnest attempt to return to our former divinity of wholeness. It ain't about no washing, no clothes, and about no sundown and bathing. Right. It's about us understanding that this was symbolic, allegorical language to let us know there was a designated time that all of this would begin to what? Reverse itself as we came into the knowledge of self, self-love, self-knowledge of who we are. This is what this was all about, family. We will view the concept through the Hebraic meaning and the English equivalent of blood. Now here we go. Blood, 1880. Da'am, from 1826. Damam, as we are instructed to compare 119 as Adam. Adam, family. Whenever blood is shed, it causes death of man and animals by analogy of the juice of the grape. Figuratively, in the plural of blood shed. From 1826, damam, a prime root, compared to 1724, daham, and 1820, damam, to be dumb, by implying to be astonished, to stop, also to perish, to cease, be cut down, be cut off, to become dumbfounded. Now we go to the English of the word. Is an adjective. It means one lacking the power of speech.
Wow.
Lacking some usual attribute or a compliment as having no means of self-propulsion. Markedly lacking intelligence, stupid.
Wow.
So we got to understand about this blood. You see, in the physical sense, in this Adam, all this had to do with a descending, condition that happened to a people that was what? Once, organically, and wholeness, in their divinity, but falling into a state of stupidity, which is the lowest that we can go. We have to go up now.
Yes.
We have to go up. So we're coming to the close for today. As we look at the effect of the blood of the animals which you consume, eat, has on the phrase mind, heart being deceitful above all things and desperately wicked, it means what? Desperately wicked, okay? It says 605, anash, to be frail. Now, I don't mean frail like you a little skinny, because most of our people in the descent, they ain't frail. They're all big and out of shape. So the fragility, the frailness here is what? In their way of viewing things. They have a frail view of looking at things, not holistic, but more dualistic, or any other way other than wholeness. That's the frailness, and that makes them very feeble or figuratively incurable. Now, if we talk about something physical, we already in trouble.
Yes.
If we're in a state of being incurable, but now you have to go all the way back to the fall to see this. All this is in the Genesis. The two men, the Adam, and it had two elements of Adam. One was frail and one was not. And that would be symbolic of Esau and Jacob. As we continue on, family. Incurable, sick, woeful, wicked. Who can know it? As we decode the hidden meaning concealed within these two verses, first let us look at the Hebrew meaning of the word deceitful. A code from 6117, a cob, in the sense of fraudulent. So now what we've been following and believing has been what? A fraud. A fraud. washing your clothes and cleansing all this, 7 days a week and all this, it was all fraudulent, family.
Yes.
It was all
Yes.
fraudulent. Tracked, it was crooked, it was deceitful, polluted, no longer pure or whole. From 6117, a cob, a primitive root to swell out or up, used only as demonstrative to 6119, a primitive root to seize by the heel.
Wow.
Figurative,
Yes.
to circumvent as by tripping of the heels, to restrain as if by holding by the heel. See, this fall into this dualism is what Markel explained about this mind. It's artificial. It causes you to be tripped up. It causes you to fail. It causes us to be feeble. It causes us to be frail in terms of our divinity, family.
Nasik.
Diane, talk to me.
And this tripping up of the heel is the grasping of the heel by Esau, Jacob grasping Esau's heel. This goes back to the two twins that we talked about the other day. And
you know I got
yeah, okay, all right, I'm gonna leave it alone now.
We're not gonna get there today, but we're gonna set it up for
Yeah.
that. Okay, the term heel, 6117, it means, now I'm gonna spell the word as I try to, protuberant, Protuberant.
Yes.
Okay, an adjective. It was 1646. It means forcing itself into consciousness. You hear me? Forcing itself into consciousness. Obtrusive. To obtrude means to thrust out, to extrude, to force or impose as oneself or one's ideas without warrant or request, to become unduly prominent or interfering. Thrust means to push or drive with force, to shove, to cause to enter or pierce something by or as by pushing. The term intrude, to thrust oneself in without invitation, permission, or welcome as an unwelcome intruder, is the mind that is programmed. I'm going to stop right there. But we love this mind.
Right.
But it's an unwelcome intruder that cause all of the problems that we're going through, family.
Now, see.
Yes, sir.
Also, when you were sharing about these rituals that we was doing, and those who quote unquote don't want to change or don't want to go to the next step. See, that is the manifestation of a frequency that David Hawkins has in his level of consciousness. That is shame, because a lot of people won't change because of shame, because they thought that by doing all this will save them.
Absolutely.
And now this information is out here. You got a choice: either move on or stay at that frequency. And now, and now you see shame, because shame ain't gonna let you move up the ladder.
Right. Shame will not cause you to acknowledge that you are in the predicament.
That's
yes,
correct.
Absolutely, Nasik. Absolutely, yes.
See, because if you don't acknowledge you're in the predicament, then you keep saying to yourself, you're not the problem.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna hold here, family, for the day, and we'll agree upon when we come back and what time. For me tomorrow, it'll be 6 o'clock would be good if it's okay. We pretty close, Eitai. Maybe tomorrow, the next day, we would be finished up. Okay.
See, take your time. Take your time. As
Yes.
always.
Because we are time.
Yeah, we outside of time like that.
Yes. Absolutely.
So whatever, however long it takes,
We
we'll
better be outside of time.